Hello, I hope that all of you are having a wonderful day. We're back in session. School was out for a while. We had a lot of kids that were very sick, dealing with some flu season stuff. I myself was sick, so sorry about missing last week's video. Let's dive right into it. So some things that we need to talk about. Your ABs this time around were so much better. Grades and comments will be posted at the time this video goes live. I'm not getting a lot of correspondence from you guys, so I'm hoping that maybe the discussion board that I posted will help to foster some of that communication between us. There are a lot of comments that I put in your ABs that are focused on making you a more reflective teacher. It's really important that you guys are thoughtful, reflective educators, especially in the area that we teach in, because there are a lot of our kids that go through things that we don't even understand. So we need to temper our expectations and treat our kids with a little bit of compassion and a whole lot of love. We've had some situations here where, some teachers have found some things out, and it's really hurt their feelings the way that they've treated students once they find out what a student's going through. And I think that's the most important lesson for this week, is that it is very easy to cast that stone, but until you take the time to get to know a student, know their situation, understand why they're doing what they're doing, understand why they're having difficulty in a subject, you can't make those judgments, and you want to treat those kids with the love that Christ would treat them with. And there need to be more of us in education. There need to be more people who care about children, more people who like their job, more people with Christ's love in their heart that can reach out to these kids. Just wanted to give you guys a personal testimony from this week. I had a situation with a little girl who's got a pretty traumatic background, and she has impulse control issues and was taking things and giving them back, but she was given a coat by a teacher, and the secretary accused her of stealing it. It was 30 degrees outside and wouldn't let her go to recess. Made a big deal about it, and I got upset, and I told my wife that God put his hand on my shoulder, because the things that I wanted to say didn't come out of my mouth. All I was able to say was, I think until we understand what this girl's going through, we need to treat her with a little bit of love. And I just left. I went to my office, packed my things, and went to another building and worked the remainder of the day. And it's really important that you realize that when you encounter things like this, when you encounter ignorance, that sometimes it is best to remove yourself from a situation, because you do have to continue to work with these people, and you want to be a witness to them, and you want to help them be more constructive and compassionate teachers. And the words that come out of your mouth can so quickly turn people against you. So I hope that you guys are able to do this when you enter the field, and I hope that you'll pray for my student. She needs all the prayer she can get. So just if you could remember Chloe in your prayers this week. She's out with the flu right now. So all right, back to course material. Mini lesson number 2 is due this week, and I'm hoping that you guys are posting your videos somewhere. I posted a discussion board, and I don't have any responses on where the videos actually are. I was able to look through the lesson plans, and those are looking pretty good. I will be more in depth in my analysis this time around. For the first time around, Dr. Jones and I kind of decided to give you guys a pass, given that there were so many communication errors with the university, and it took them so long to get me live on the system. So now I'm in control of the course, and everything should run smoothly from here on out. When we talk about the text, they talk about suggestions for classroom instruction. Sorry about that. This week. And the first point that she discussed was using games in math class. And games are beneficial. Kids like online games. We like games to get people engaged. But it's really important to remember that games are a tool and not an instructional crutch. So many educators fall in the trap of thinking that games are the only way of instructing because it's easy. You assign a game, the kids learn by accident, and the next thing you know, your kids are doing great on all of these standardized assessments, but they can't explain to you why they are doing it. They can't tell you what exactly the steps are to this problem. So games need to go hand in hand with your instruction. I always like to use games as a way to do an informal assessment to see where I was falling short in instruction or if my students were mastering the materials, or as a way of starting class off, activating prior knowledge with a game to engage my students, have them doing something fun, and then the last half of the lesson, you dive into new materials, you help them in areas that they're having difficulty, and it kind of works as kindling for the mental fire, I guess. I think that it's really important to understand that one type of instruction will not work. They talk about diversity all the time. They talk about differentiation in your classes, and you can differentiate differently each day. You cannot rely on games as your only form of differentiation. The next thing they talked about was manipulatives. And manipulatives are great because they give us a concrete grasp onto the processes that we're doing. You guys remember the blocks, I'm sure, for multiplication and your tens and your ones and your hundreds places. There are other manipulatives that you can use. And I really think that this is a cool thing for you guys to dive into for the next round of ABs. Manipulatives and games, and using them efficiently and responsibly in your classroom, and not using them as a crutch, using them as a way to assist your instruction and not your instruction completely. Let's see. The next starting point was intervention instruction, and this part is near and dear to my heart. I taught special ed for 10 years, and I am finishing up my doctorate in the field, and I think that pacing is really important, and also it's important for you to be able to break down processes into step-by-step instructions. One thing I used to do with my kids, especially when we would have multi-step problems, is we would identify the steps, and then in our guided practice, we would go through and I'd say, complete step 1. So they would combine like terms. Complete step 2, they would multiply or divide. Complete step 3, and you do a lot of practice of this with order of operations. But when your kids who have difficulty working towards multi-step problems, it's so much easier for them to do step by step and give them a list of the steps. It's not going to hurt anything. They can look it up online. It's also important that if you are using manipulatives, to make sure that they're accessible to all your students. And if they're not accessible to a certain student, find an alternative. You're not going to be able to meet the needs of everybody with one form of manipulative, but you need to show that you care enough to find something for everybody. They can be different. Differentiation is what we're looking for. And finally, to wrap up, your final starting point was, oh my goodness, classroom organization. We could dive into that. I'm running out of time on this video, so we will talk about that in discussion if you want. But I've got 30 seconds to remind you that mini lessons are due on Friday. Please post videos along with your lesson plans. If you're putting them on YouTube, just attach the link in the comments. You guys are also required to view one of your peers' lesson plans and just fill out the form that I added. God bless. Have a great week.